afternoon to everybody, to the people on stage, Professor Karnanandan, Professor Sivakumar, Professor Francis, Professor Tilaga, Madam Uma Maheshwari and Mr. Sudhakar, and to the people in the audience who have come here to join hands with AISEC in opposing a very dangerous situation in the country. NEP was there from 1986, but at 1986, bringing NEP 1986, in my opinion, was a turning point. It is not that before that, we have to understand one thing, that education, though many people may not like to admit it, education is a political activity. Education, there are people who came into power. They came into power on the aspirations of people who were inspired by our Renaissance leaders. They were inspired by people like Vidyasagar, Bhagat Singh, Bharati, Jyotirao Phule, so many people. Education gave a hope to people. And modern education, when it came into India in those days, the common people ruled by the British under the powers of the British, being trampled down by the British, saw that with modern education, the British did not come here to educate, to give us universal, secular, democratic education. They came here for their own purpose. They wanted to give us that much education that will serve them. But the thing with we humans as a race is that we have come from very far. We have come from the days when we were in caves, when we were hunting, when we were food gatherers, using our capacity to think. We have come here. So man is capable of so much. Man is capable of exploring space, going beyond that. But the same man is also adaptable. Man can get adapted to good things. But in certain situations, man can be made to do things that we regret in history. And we are right now at the crossroads. We are at the crossroads. We can be capable of so much. When people saw just before the freedom struggle, they saw our scientists achieving something, they saw our literators achieving something, that gave the common people a dream, that we can also be like that. And they were real leaders who inspired them, leaders saying that, yes, not resting on past glory. They were not resting on past glory and not wanting to move forward. Pointing to the past, people like Vivekananda and all that, they showed we as a people, we don't need to be under the British. We can exercise our own freedom, our liberty, our thinking. We can go forward by ourselves. Inspired by this, when we look at martyrs and famous people, we sometimes focus on their sacrifice. But their sacrifice came by the sacrifices of so many of the common people. It was the common people who made Bhagat Singh, who made Netaji. I am not trying to bring down. Netaji inspired them. And the people had enough understanding, enough consciousness to be inspired by this thing. This is how we came to freedom. And at the stroke of midnight, a great betrayal happened. That what people aspired for. They talk about Nehru's tryst at midnight and things like that. But for the people of India, it was a very regrettable thing. Because education, right from then on, somebody mentioned UGC, that the UGC chairman could openly say that we are not meaning to give higher education to everybody. No, we don't. We can't. Because we can't employ everybody. That is not the point. There are societies where employment, and you don't measure employment against whether you're going to make money by giving somebody. It is for the good of society. Societies like that are there as examples. India was also inspired by that. India was inspired by the people of India, I mean, when I say India, they were inspired by what happened in the Soviet Union. What type of society? They said, a working class state, working class people can run a government. I mean, the Soviet Union showed them that we can. That in a few years, what it had taken 200 years for the West to do, these people could do in how many years? That was the mistake they made, in the sense that everybody started labeling what the Soviet Union was, what socialism was. Everything else outside of that was in the hands of people who had everything to lose if socialism came everywhere. So they started a slander campaign, different campaigns. They started that. We also had an aspiration for that. Our leaders, those who gave lives, those who led the countries, like Bhagat Singh, like Netaji. I'm just taking two examples out of many. What did they promise the people? What did they talk about? Education for the people. What is education for? Education is for the common man. At the same time, the people on the other side, what did they see education as? What did they say ignorance as? They wanted ignorance for the majority. They did not want education. They did not want enlightenment for people. That is what is continuing. We have to realize it is a political thing. It is we the people, we the majority of the people, against those who have to benefit from it. Until a time they could not do what they did in 1986. They promised certain things. Some people say, I'm just little diversion, some people say that the economy on those times was a bad economy. We should have gone for globalization earlier on. No. They were preparing for that. In the early days, in the first 40, 50 years after independence, the people who had to benefit, the corporates, what I would call the capitalist class, they needed the protection. They needed to grow. They needed public money invested into public sector units and things like that. It was the same. Whether it is health or education, it was the same. Then came the 1990s. You must understand, before 1990, before globalization set in, new education policy was brought in 1984. And if you look, it is not only in India. In many countries of the world, the counter-revolution did not take place only in Russia. In ideas, it took place everywhere. They were preparing for this everywhere. That is why the new education policy preceded 1990s. They were setting the base so that when 1990s, when liberalization, globalization came and privatization came, the thing was ready. People had no choice. The stage was set up for that. And that is why the language, when we first came into the movement, when the All India Civic Education Committee was proposed. Sorry. Am I not audible? I'm sorry. I'm not very familiar with handling a mic. So when, where was I? The policy. Yeah, the policy before this thing came. Like I said, it was there everywhere. And then came the globalization policy and things like that. It is not that education was there for everywhere then. There were lots of things, like this schools without teachers, one teacher teaching 3 classes and all, that was there. But then at that particular time, the possibilities of reaching out education to the last thing, you could say there were some limits on it. But after globalization, after what they are talking about today in the Education Policy 2020, after globalization, another point came. All through these years, products were products. After the policies of LPG came, services became the hot investments. That is where people realized that, hey, people can't demand medical health as a thing that they are entitled to. They are not entitled to education. They are not entitled to many of to proper roads, to proper transport system. No, if they want it, they'll have to pay for it. Again, So it became based on some people wanting to make money out of what people needed. I mean, it's not surprising, isn't it? People make money out of food, hoarding food, basic needs of life. Education became like that. And they had to have a policy for that. So this is why we see that it is driven. It is not privatization that is a problem. Privatization was there even before. Philanthropists started private institutions because the British wouldn't start those institutions for people. But that was not with a profit motive. It was as part of the struggle to fight the British, to give education to the people. But now it took a different stand. Two things happened parallelly. One is the government. This government, we know, today also we know that the government does not represent the needs of the people. So on one hand, government started, somebody was telling, Professor Rahman was telling us that when he was studying, that the education they received, I can say during my father's time, whatever education was there, it had a standard. Somebody passed up to 10th standard, he can write equally well. My experience is in Kerala, equally well in Malayalam. They could draft a very proper letter in English, and 10th standard was enough for them to get jobs elsewhere. But is that the condition now? From then to now, what has happened? Where was the attack? After NEP 86, there was a program called DPEP. And in that DPEP program, District Primary Education Program, what happened? What was their argument? They told that in the list of educational achievements, people from Bihar do very well in exams and things like that. But when you talk about education infrastructure, definitely Bihar doesn't come third and Kerala way down. They had to destroy the basic education system set up in Kerala. That the government at that time, being the government it was, is unfortunate because that was not expected of that government. But DPEP was responsible in line. These are all in line. And these are not Indian programs only. This is the onslaught of the corporates, not only in India, but corporates everywhere else, because they are in crisis. Manufacturing and things like that are not getting them the profits they want. They go into services like education, selling education. You want education, you pay for it. This was the thing. So Kerala, the books, when same AISEC, we fought against DPEP in Kerala. You should have seen. Children do not need to learn. It would be intruding on the democratic right of a student if a teacher teaches the child ABC or 1, 2, 3. This is the concept. If you break it down. Same concept is found here also in NEP 2020. It's carried on. So, this is a planned onslaught. On the other side is the enemy who does not want to give us education. Our role is to get united. Movements are necessary. We have had endless meetings, very useful meetings like this, to get into what is the ideology of the NEP. People have said privatization, commercialization, centralization of education in the hands of the center, so that the people who the bidding they do, things get done immediately. If again education is going to be center and state, just imagine. So they have long ago usurped the state's right to decide its education policy, brought it on something called the concurrent list. You cannot have a concurrent list. Concurrent list means it's in the hands of the government at the center. So that is the state. So they wanted to do all these things to education, and plus a very dangerous thing. They always rule the people. The British may have talked about divide and rule, but we have become masters at it. The people who took over the reins in India, they have become masters at it. And another feature for long has been communalization of education. Communalization of education. And though they talk about democratization of education, you just have to talk to the marginalized section where they are. Some of them may have floated to the top, but the major part of marginalized section, they are still there. Now comes a point. If something is good, something is going to benefit, what do politicians do? They will be hoo-haing all over the place. But NEP 2020, I'm not going into much details. There was NEP 86, there was 92, there was DPEP. Then 2016, when they immediately came to power, this present regime tried it, but they couldn't, because unfortunately they put the emphasis on language, and language is there, they reacted. 2019, they had one person, T.C. Subramaniam, he recommended something. His recommendations were not totally to their liking, because he refused to take the suggestions from the government and the government's parivar. They were giving suggestions, he said no. So straight away, they replaced him later with, what's his name, Kasturi Rangan. Yeah, that happened. And Kasturi Rangan brought the thing in. And 230 pages then, but the essence of it came distilled into 66 pages. And what is the aim? What everybody has said, centralization, commercialization. You see, I'll tell you one thing. If you fight communalization, even governments, other governments, all governments, we must understand, it is not that a BJP government is against the people, or Congress is for the people, or in the state, the ADMK is for the people, or this person is against the people. No, 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 no. They are all political. They want to get elected because they want to serve somebody. That is this thing. They come to you saying, we will serve you. Even in this case of NEP, in case of DPEP also, when we fought, the government which came next, they promised, we will withdraw DPEP. That was by words. But later, in effect, what happened? They implemented exactly what they were proposing. Here also, our recent experience is that they came, they said, yes, we will give opportunity for an alternative education policy. What happened? It's good that we want, the people want. People came, intellectuals came, educators came. They said, this is not right, this is what we want to do. They made a show as if they will listen. But finally, they know whom they are serving. So, it's a battle. We have, in the realm of ideas, that NEP is bad. If people come for a discussion, for a debate, we can convince that this is bad for the people. But the people who are bringing these education policies are not bringing education policies for the people. That we have to understand. That we have to understand. That is it. We've been fighting long, hard. We've been fighting for a long, long time. So here, it's good. I mean, I expected that more people will come because of the campaign we did, but maybe the day and things like that. But one thing promising is that if you have come here, you feel about education. So we should take a message back with us. It is not for Save Education Committee or Professor Jawar Nisan or Professor Sivakumar or Professor Karnanandan just to do the talking. This has to come to the grassroots. Each of us has to talk to our families. Each of us has to talk to the people we know. We once, in West Bengal, for 20 years we fought to bring back a language policy. The English was removed from the school syllabus. We fought, we set up parallel examination system, and after 20 years, the government was forced to bring back English. So it is not something that will be done. Now itself, from 2020, we've been fighting till 2024. Actually, we've been fighting since the first NEP came. But we are reaching a critical stage. The government that is there and the government that is here now, this is a fanatic, undemocratic government that will do anything, that is prepared to do anything. Because that is the pressure being put on them by the people, by the big corporates behind them. They are putting the pressure on them. No, education cannot be given, be free. On that, everybody will be united. I mean, the people who have something to benefit, all will be united. If you say something on language, one government may support you. But that too is for a limited period. Because they have to serve their masters also. So, this whole education movement that we are we have a hard task against us, but we cannot give it up because it also means an attack on civilization. It means an attack on our children, on our future, on us deserting the faculty of thinking even. We have to be ready to be thoughtless. And now with the coming of AI and things like that, the possibility comes more. Another point I ask, they want to onlineize education. They want to bring education online. I'll accept that. But are you bringing online education in such a way, that you will provide whatever is necessary for online education, just like before you did not provide classrooms? Are you willing to abandon that and provide every child with the wherewithal to get education online? Are you ready? What talks? Many people have talked. Many people have mentioned this. Policy is beautiful. You read any NEP policy, the words are so beautiful. Unless you know what is happening and you go between the lines, you do not know the pitfalls that are waiting for you. So even online education, it can be done. If it was a policy which is really pro-people, they could do it in another way. But the way they are going here, taking policies, outsourcing it to private people, allowing private people to make money, and thereby reducing the number of people who can actually get education, you can see what is the purpose. So the marginalized will remain marginalized. The economically backward will remain backward. More people are joining the economically weak. So there's a big, big battle ahead of us. It's a battle, it's war. We should be ready for that. We cannot be sitting at home. We should take example from the peasants' movement. The peasants' movement was a heroic movement, but still, have they achieved? As soon as they gave up, the government withdrew with its word. They're continuing the agitation. So the agitation we are hoping to take forward will be something like that. We should be ready for that. We should not step back because we have to do it. It is an imperative thing for us to do. And seeing all of you here, taking the time to come here, I'm hopeful that this thought will be taken and that you will join the ranks of the All India Safe Education Committee, which is a broad platform of everybody who loves education, love their children, want their children to be somebody. It's a platform for people like that. So I hope all of you come forward, strengthen the Safe Education movement. It needs to be strengthened at an emergency rate. We cannot wait for another 1986 to 2024 because implementation is going on. Without public debate, it's going on. We have to stop it in its track. And for that, we need power. We need force. Force means not violence. We need to be unshakable, that we will not allow you to do it. I think I've taken enough time. Thank you so much for listening to me.